into Alabama's class. We've got the top 5 guys that should be competing for spots right away. I mean, you're in love with Cam Robinson, and so is every single other person. You mentioned Tony Brown from Beaumont, Texas. Deshaun Hand, somebody that came in from the Virginia area where they've recruited pretty well of note. Marlon Humphrey and Rashawn Evans, who we've been talking about. And then, as you mentioned, this list should be about 12 or 14 guys long with the sheer amount of talent they've brought in.
Yeah, Alabama's class is just sick. I mean, we list 5 here. Before we went on the air, I asked Dan if we could list like 15 because it really, it's nuts to leave some of these kids off. You have Cameron Robinson, who just a tackle that I thought was a very, very good college player when I first saw him from behind at the opening.
Yeah.
And then I realized he wasn't. He was actually a high schooler. I had never seen him in person prior to that. Great length, 6'6", 325. I think he would start for a lot of good BCS teams if he had skipped his senior year of high school. I really mean that. Guy's just, he's advanced. He has good technique. He has great balance. Very light feet. A guy who's 325 pounds should not be able to move like that. And they just signed good player after good player and just guys with every single big offer in the country, really.
Is there a comparison that you can make for Cam Robinson of recent high-level 5-stars at Chantrell Henderson, Cyrus Kouandjio? Is he more college-ready than both of those guys who have been up there?
Yeah, I think he's definitely in that Kouandjio mold.
He's in the Kouandjio mold.
Just a guy with great athleticism. He may have a little bit more power than Kouandjio did initially. I thought Kouandjio had a little more room to fill out, and he did eventually at Alabama. Robinson, to me, it's just the balance. He seems to, he's always in a good position to deliver a blow, doesn't get beat back to the inside a whole lot. His feet never real narrow. He's wide in his base when he needs to be, light on the feet, plays in a good football position. It's just, you don't see a whole lot of guys his age and that size have that sort of body control. It's kind of like big men in basketball.
Sure, absolutely. And Marlon Humphrey and Tony Brown, you can make an argument that they're 2 of the absolute best in that group of national cornerbacks. Who do you feel like sees the field? Who's abilities will translate quicker to the college game, especially since Alabama, the corners struggled a little bit last year. We saw at times in the Oklahoma game, obviously early on in the Texas A&M game. Who is more ready to physically play in a more complicated coverage-based defense?
I actually think it's Marlon Humphrey. We know that Alabama needs a lot of help at cornerback. They get Marlon, the son of Bobby Humphrey, obviously an Alabama legend, played at Hoover High School just down the road from Tuscaloosa. He's more advanced technique-wise than Tony Brown is. Tony Brown is a faster player, perhaps greater upside, but Humphrey is the best corner in the country, in my opinion. Maybe with Jabril Peppers accepted, the kid going to Michigan, I know we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
I think Humphrey's going to come in, and if he doesn't start, he's going to play a significant role in that defense from day one.
And another guy you mentioned that's not on that list is DJ Petway, who was at Alabama.
Yes.
Now being readmitted to Alabama after, we'll call it an incident. We'll call it an incident. JUCO guy now officially. You feel like he can jump in right away. They are losing some in their front 7. He's a defensive end, can play big enough to play in that 3-4 on the line. How do you project? Is he a starter right away? Is he lining up next to A'Shawn? What is the situation with Petway?
He's a player I know Alabama really liked when they had him, and obviously he had to go away because of the legal stuff, and now he's back. Alabama fans are probably pretty happy to see that.
Sure.
I think he's a guy who has a great blend of quickness and power, and it's another guy who can get after the pass rusher a little bit, but also is going to be very stout against the run. And a player who I do think can play multiple downs for them as well, as opposed to some of these more specialists they've had. I know Alabama, I think after playing Auburn this year and after facing A&M and all that, and the struggles they've had a little bit in those games, is sort of looking to get players with more versatility and perhaps a little bit less specialization.
All right, and we are now joined by, from Roll Bama Roll, obviously, the destination for Alabama football and all things Alabama recruiting, Alabama sports in general. It's CB969. He's a robot. He's not a robot. He's the editor of Roll Bama Roll. CB, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Your reaction immediately to a pretty devastatingly dominant class for Alabama. What's the big takeaway? How well did you think Nick Saban and staff did evaluating talent and addressing sort of value needs?
Well, we here in Tuscaloosa thought we were just going to have a quiet, uneventful day. And then, boom, Sean Evans pulls the Crimson Tide out of his pocket, and that just blew us all away. We were already, beyond happy with the class we got. I thought it was really interesting. If you look at who this class is full of, you could practically put together an entire team with just who they have. They've got 6 offensive linemen, they got a quarterback, a tight end, wide receivers, and then on the other side they have 4 linebackers, 6 defensive linemen, and 4 defensive backs. So it just spreads the whole gamut of what you need, and I think they did a fantastic job.
Who have you been hearing has the talent, who to your eyes has the talent, has the abilities, whether it's physically, whether it's sort of brain capacity to take in and learn a playbook that can be a complicated one, especially on the defensive side of the ball? Who are the early impact guys to you as you see it?
Well, on the offensive side, I really like Cameron Robinson a lot. He's the top lineman in the country.
Yep.
And with Cyrus Kwanzaa going off to the NFL, there's a good chance he could step in there at left tackle. On the defensive side,
yeah,
it is a tough defense to learn, and Alabama picked up Reuben Foster a year ago, who was one of the top in the nation, and he got a lot of playing time, but he didn't crack the lineup.
Right.
So it is a tough lineup. It's a tough defense to learn, and there are a few questions at cornerback. So I'm thinking with Tony Brown coming in early, it's perhaps he could help out there at corner, and of course Marlon Humphrey is a big pickup as well.
Perfect. Any names that are more long-term names for you? Obviously, Alabama is stacked at a number of positions along the field. Any names that you're curious to see what they are physically, where they are just skill-wise in 2 or 3 years?
Well, yeah, obviously with Jake Coker becoming the quarterback this year, it'll be interesting to see what happens with David Cornwell. People are very excited about him, but now he's going to have a couple years to learn behind a veteran, which is going to be really nice.
Perfect. Well, CB, I appreciate the time. I appreciate the effort. As somebody who does not root for Alabama but appreciates dominant football, a Roll Tide to you, sir. Today was a huge win, especially with the Rashaan Evans pick, and enjoy your signing day.
Yes, thank you very much. Y'all have a good day.
All right, that is CB from Roll Bama Roll. They, of course, do a fantastic job covering all things Tide.